Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and today it's great to have Brian here. Brian, now you're creating Arena Club, which is a really interesting way to kind of bridge physical and digital and make this transformation with collectibles. And you're creating that with Derek Jeter. And you've been behind so many really incredible businesses, whether it's LegalZoom and making contracts and legal documents simple for people online, and with ShoeDazzle creating a subscription service that helps a lot of people get really interesting items at a pretty affordable price. And with your fund, bam, you've been able to help kickstart a lot of entrepreneurs. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Ben. Looking forward to this.
Awesome. So early on, Brian, how did your passion for entrepreneurship and technology begin?
You know, I think I think most entrepreneurs are born with a certain gene, right? That entrepreneur gene, and I was definitely born with that. So for as far back as I can remember, I was always hustling. Come up with ways to make something or sell something or service something or whatever it is. And so my journey started when I was very young. I remember my first business was going trick or treating and finding a bunch of or getting out there early and getting a lot of candy and then selling that candy at school the next day. So that was my first my first foray into entrepreneurship. But yeah, I've always had that mindset. I always it's a blessing and a curse, honestly, when it comes to entrepreneurship. It's you come up with a lot of ideas, and I've never been lacking for ideas, and every day I'll come across something where I'm like, oh, I think someone should do that better, or that service should be better, or gosh, this tastes great, but it would taste better this way. Whatever it is, it's like I'm always constantly thinking how to improve upon things and to innovate and to create new things.
Mhm. So do you think it's just kind of like a mindset that you've been born with, that you want to just create new stuff and be innovative, or was it it was developed over time?
I think a lot of it you're kind of born with that genetic, but also just over time, just being surrounded by other entrepreneurs. My dad was an entrepreneur, and so I saw him, start companies and build them. And once I started my first company, LegalZoom, that was my foray into just meeting other entrepreneurs and being in the ecosystem and understanding what's happening and just being interested in what's coming along, interested in innovation and technology in the future of what's going to happen. I've always had that type of a mindset. It's always interested me to know what's happening. And that's how I actually even started a venture fund, because it really just keeps me close to young entrepreneurs working on really cool things. And it's been a lot of fun.
That's great. So Brian, with LegalZoom, how did you guys come up with this idea and get it started?
So LegalZoom was started way back in 1999. And the idea really came from the fact that most legal documents were pretty standard. Like a lot of them were just really standard forms that you just kind of modified a little bit, and still attorneys would charge, hundreds of dollars an hour uh, to get that type of work done. That's very simple. And so that was the genesis of the idea, was to just simplify legal services and documents and provide, affordable pricing for these type of documents. So things like living trusts and wills and forming a corporation or getting a trademark. These are all pretty standard um, forms. And so basically we automated it, automated a lot of the processes. We really liked what Intuit was doing at the time with QuickBooks, and also especially with their tax software. And so like TurboTax, what it was called. And we just liked what they were doing with it. And we thought we could do the same for legal documents. And that was like the journey. And, we were very, very early internet. This is back, like I said, back in 99, 2000. We launched in 2001, I believe, in that time frame.
Hmm. So the idea made a lot of sense. Let's simplify, legal documents on the internet. You had a business partner there that had a lot of legal experience, I think, as did you. How were you guys? How was that background that you had, especially also Robert's background, really helpful to creating these documents and making them simple?
Yeah, so really we lucked out. It was me and Brian were the founders, along with Eddie Hartman and Robert Shapiro. And Eddie Hartman was our technologist, and he was just a whiz, and he still is a whiz, one of the smartest people I've ever worked with. Um, and Robert Shapiro, of course, is a whiz when it comes to law. And but the thing about Robert Shapiro, and the reason why we brought him aboard, mainly not just for his legal mind, but it was also, he was a pretty famous attorney at the time, coming off of
Mhm.
the O.J. Simpson case. And the number one issue we had at LegalZoom, and we knew this when we started it, was getting people to trust it,
Mm.
right? Because again, the internet was new. People were scared to put their credit card information online. Believe it or not, this is the early days, right? They're like, where does it go, right? And so we realized that we weren't just asking for credit card information; we were asking for everything. We were asking for your bank account information if you're setting up a living trust, your stock, your home mortgage information, like all of it. And so we knew we had to build instant credibility. And the way that we decided to do that was to bring on a celebrity attorney. And we brought on Robert Shapiro, and he is the greatest partner, really the easiest person to work with, really believed in what we were doing and did everything he could to help us grow. But what we saw was not just that people trusted the site, but also every time Robert Shapiro went on to television, like CNN or whatever it was, he would say LegalZoom, and we would get orders. And so
Huh.
it's very early influencer marketing if you think about that sense. But we actually didn't bring Robert on to, for the marketing part. We brought him on for the credibility part, but it ended up being a little bit of both.
Is that why, Brian, like your approach with many of the businesses you've done, like with The Honest Company, with Jessica Alba, and with ShoeDazzle, Kim Kardashian, you bring on these types of celebrities or people with certain status to get the credibility and the customers too? Has that kind of been your approach?
Yeah, it's always been. And it's because it's always worked. It worked for us at LegalZoom. It worked at ShoeDazzle. It worked at The Honest Company. And now it's working with Arena Club with Derek Jeter. And so the number one thing about bringing on or partnering, I should say, with a celebrity or an influencer, it's really about authenticity and whether or not they believe in the product or the service as much as you do. And also, does the consumer see it that way? Do they resonate with the fact that so and so is attached to something? And so with Robert Shapiro, it made complete sense. Of course, he's a lawyer and was LegalZoom. And with Kim Kardashian, at that time, she was really known for her styling and her fashionista, her appearances when it came to fashion. And everyone knew that she loves high heel shoes. And so ShoeDazzle was very authentic to what she represented and believed in at the time. And with Jessica Alba, really, she came to me with this idea and wanted me to help her build the Honest Company. But really, she was a new mom. She really was living that non-toxic lifestyle, and it really resonated with me and with the audience. And so, yeah, absolutely, it's really about bringing credibility to whatever company you're starting or brand, as well as just that authentic nature that resonates with consumers.
Interesting. So, like with ShoeDazzle, you know, like you mentioned, it was an idea that really fit her well, but it was pretty early on in the subscription service business model. And you guys came up with your own version of that. Like, can you just talk a little bit about, Brian, like why that was the approach for ShoeDazzle and how that subscription model came about?
Yeah, it's a great question because I haven't thought about it in a long time. But yeah, ShoeDazzle was one of the first subscription models online
Hmm.
back in the day, and it was a very novel concept. And the way that we came up with it was really it was my wife. My wife, once I got married, I just saw how many shoes she was buying, and I realized like, okay, you're pretty addicted to these shoes. And then I had this other friend who was manufacturing shoes out in Asia, and basically she was telling me that what the actual costs were for even high end shoes and the cost to manufacture them and so forth. And I realized that there was tremendous margin in shoes. And so I thought, okay, well, what if we combine kind of like a very affordable kind of shoe, but I knew that women were addicted, for lack of a better word, to shoes. And so we thought, okay, well, what if we offer them a shoe a month, like a shoe of the month club, almost
Huh.
kind of like a book of the month club. And it was very early, so I realized that once we got a customer, a member, buying a shoe a month, that we could actually pay for the marketing up front
Huh.
and ride the long tail in the end, right? So basically, early CAC to LTV ratios, and we kind of figured this out as we went. How much we could spend on a customer and how long they stayed with us, and what the margins were, and so forth when it came to someone buying 12 pairs of shoes from us or more. So that was really the model. It was so much fun. It really was. It was early days of still pretty much the early days of advertising online,
Huh.
because we were one of the earliest advertisers on Facebook, with ShoeDazzle, and we kind of grew with Meta. At the time it was just Facebook, but we kind of grew with that channel, and even with LegalZoom. Just in hindsight, we were one of the earliest advertisers to pay for a click, right? So we were paying. I remember 1 cent per click on a search engine called GoTo.com, and GoTo was started by the Ilbaz guys out here in LA. And so, yeah, it was just early days, and we were paying 1 cent per click. And I remember one day they decided to raise our price, the minimum, to 5 cents per click, and we were like, oh no. Like, what are you doing? It's 5 cents per click now. But we really grew LegalZoom with paid search, and kind of rode that wave as well. And then ShoeDazzle grew with early Facebook advertising. I would say the Honest Company was very early influencer marketing. We really caught on to the wave of mommy influencers at the time, and worked a lot with a lot of them. I remember going to early conferences when it came to social media and all these new influencers, and we worked with all of them, and we really helped grow. That really helped grow the Honest Company.
Hmm. So is it just been like your willingness to embrace kind of new forms of marketing and different, ideas that's enabled you to discover, I mean, to be part of online advertising pretty early on and be part of like a subscription business model? Like what's kind of lends you to be willing to embrace things that maybe aren't as proven but have led to some of the great success for you?
Well, I think with any online business, what you want to do is test every channel, especially the newest channels. And if you find a channel that's working, you want to go deeper and deeper and deeper into it, right? I call burning the channel, right? You want to get to the point of efficiency as fast as you can. And so I'm always on the lookout, for the newest channels, newest advertising platforms, and everything else. And because what works today, you know, didn't work yesterday, and what works yesterday doesn't work today, right? So it's constantly evolving and changing. Um, and so you just got to stay on top of it. And again, it really helps to be in venture capital as well, because you actually get to see a lot of these new platforms and what's happening, and what the young kids are using, and so forth.
So when with your find, are you generally looking like for ideas that benefit some of the companies that you're already involved in? Like what's been an approach? I mean, because you're exposed to a lot, but what's kind of been the best approach to have success while running your companies as well as investing?
Yeah, so I've always done both. That's the thing. It's like, my earliest days at LegalZoom, I remember when we first started making some money, I would actually just invest it right back into all the friends I was meeting. Basically, like, I'd meet so many entrepreneurs working on really cool things, and a lot of them I liked a lot, and so I would just invest, and I was an angel investor for a long time. And then I realized, I had hundreds of angel investments, and then I decided I have to put structure around this. And that was the birth of BAM Ventures. BAM stands for Brian and Mira, my wife. And so we started a venture fund, and now we invest out of that vehicle. But yeah, we're constantly looking for companies that can help our existing companies and portfolio, but also, we stay very, very focused in what we know and what we understand. And it's a very simple rule. It's a Warren Buffett rule, right? It's just invest in what you know. And so we stay very focused in consumer and consumer tech, because these are the areas that we're very familiar with. And we often tell ourselves that we should never invest in a company that we would not know how to run. right? So if we can't go in and actually run that company, if we had to, for any reason, then we shouldn't be investing.
So just kind of going back on one of the points you mentioned earlier about how Jessica Alba kind of came to you with the idea for the Honest Company. Why do you think that she came to you with this idea? And I mean, because you did have, of course, the record, but why do you think she thought you were really the right person to build this up? And how were you able to lead the company, for many years to build out kind of a very new category?
Yeah, well, it was mainly Jessica's company, an idea, and so she came to me because she knew I knew how to build a tech company, right, an internet company, e-commerce company. And I was friends with her husband, Cash. And so they approached me and wanted me to get involved. And honestly, it's like I just knew it would work. I just knew it would, because the thing about the Honest Company and living that healthy lifestyle and offering healthier products to young families with babies, it just really resonated with me, because at that time I had two young ones, right? And saw how my wife was now shopping at Whole Foods and making organic purees for the kids and so forth. Like, our lifestyle changed, after having children. It's a moment. It's a true moment of awakening. When you hold your first child, you honestly, it's like it's a connection, it's a love that you won't get anywhere else, right? Like, that's it. It's like you will do anything to protect this child, and especially when it comes to healthier products and a healthier way of life. And it's like, that's a moment of awakening. And so we knew that was the way into your homes. And I just knew that she was onto something. And so got involved and helped build it, helped raise the capital, and set the initial teams and growth. And, it was really fun. I think I was there for maybe 6 years, 7 years, something like that. But it was a lot of fun.
Seemed like it.
Yeah.
So now you're building Arena Club. How did you land on this idea, and why is the transformation of digital to physical so important to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I've always loved cards. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been collecting baseball and basketball cards, since I was a kid, and I never stopped. Most of my friends stopped in like junior high school or college or whatever it is. I just kept collecting. Even when I started working, I would always pop my head into local card shops, because very early on I realized it was more affordable to buy a Kobe Bryant rookie card in Wichita, Kansas than it was in Los Angeles, right? And so I would play that arbitrage game, and just collect. And but all throughout my years of collecting, I always wanted to make the hobby better, with technology and innovation. So when it came to the grading of cards, I wanted to use AI and machine learning, computer vision to grade cards, or to help grade cards, and provide really transparent grading reports if you wanted to grade a card. And then on the marketplace side, I just thought it'd be so much, like, just better if you could vault the card, digitize it, and allow people to buy, sell, and trade it very quickly, because we put it on blockchain. And so the way Arena Club works is you send in your card. Once we digitize it, we put the digital version on block, and then basically put the digital version into your online showroom. So what it is, it's an asset-backed NFT is what it is. We don't call it that, but that's what it is. And then you can buy, sell, and trade it very quickly without the card ever leaving the vault. Right. So we have some cards that have transacted over 30 times on our site, on our marketplace, without ever moving from the vault. And so it's been really fun seeing it happen. Because the other thing about other like marketplaces is, well, traditional marketplaces, is that there's a lot of issues, right, with lost mail, non-shipment, non-payment, non-delivery. It's just a lot of things that I had to deal with over the years, and I just thought it'd be a cleaner system to vault cards and have it trade almost instantly.
Yeah. Well, it definitely sounds like it has been. And I mean, 30 times being traded and still sits in the same location. That's pretty interesting. So what's
Yeah,
kind of your overall goal, Brian, with this new company? Like, where do you see it? What's the long-term vision? Where do you see it being in maybe 5 to 10 years?
yeah, it's a great question. I love Arena Club. I just do. Arena Club has been so much fun. Derek Jeter has been an amazing partner. I have another partner here named Jesse Glass, who's been tremendous in helping build this. But for Arena Club, we really want to be the destination, the community for all collectors, and especially in the trading card sector. So eventually we will move into other collectibles, but right now we're pretty focused on trading cards. We want this to be a fun place to interact, to do anything that you would do in this hobby. So if you're a collector, you could buy, sell, and trade cards. You could send in cards for grading. Right now, we've got a new product called Slab Packs, where you could buy a pack of cards online and rip them open and see it displayed and write it into your showroom. And so we're having a lot of fun with it. We're going to do live meet and greets with athletes soon on the site, which will be a lot of fun for people to get a Zoom time with an athlete and then get an item signed, and we'll mail them the signed item. We're doing a lot of fun things here, and we just want this to be the hub. We want this to be the place where card collectors come and have fun.
Mhm. That's awesome. So just the last question I have, Brian, at this point now in your life, like, what do you aspire to accomplish overall?
For me, it's more about, I think I've accomplished so much in my
Hmm.
professional life. And I really do want to focus more on um, just the community, my family, some other things that I'm finding more like I really want to get into giving back more, if that makes sense. And so I've been spending more time on philanthropy and meeting with a lot of organizations that I want to help. And my wife wants to help a lot of these organizations as well, and so forth. But I'm having a lot of fun doing that too, and see my kids grow. It's really fun. I have a high schooler now, and he's doing great. My daughter's in eighth grade, and they're thriving. And so yeah, it's been honestly, my life has been it's been blessed in so many ways, and I praise the Lord for that. And yeah, just feeling fortunate.
It's good. It's good you look at it like that and you realize it. Well, Brian, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, and I'm definitely excited to see what you'll do next and the impact you'll have. I think Arena Club is a really interesting idea that's got a lot of promise, and I'm sure that the work you'll do charity wise will also be impactful.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Ben. This was fun.